To Sweden now, where security services are accusing Iran of working with criminal gangs in the country to target Jewish and Israeli interests. Swedish authorities say Iran is recruiting gang members, including children, to commit acts of violence. And here's what the head of the Swedish intelligence services had to say.
Recently, we at the security services have noticed that Iran is more and more focusing on other states' interests in Sweden, and specifically states that it feels like it's in conflict with. And this applies not least to Israel. The security services can now state that criminal networks in Sweden are a proxy that Iran uses. The activities that Iran is conducting, it is very much about planning and trying to implement an attack against Israeli and Jewish interests and goals and activities in Sweden.
And for more now, I'm joined by Diamant Salihu. He's an award-winning journalist who specializes in gang violence in Sweden. Diamant, it's good to have you with us. Can you first explain to us who these criminal gangs are that authorities are accusing of working with Iran?
The Foxtrot network is, the most violent network that we've seen in Sweden in recent years. And leaders have an internal conflict that has led to more than 10 killings the last year. And the leaders have been in exile in Turkey and Iran for the last year as well. And now these new details are surprising in a way.
You cover criminal gangs in Sweden. What's your read on this? Are these accusations, are they credible?
I think as always, I think you have to be a bit skeptical. But when the Swedish intelligence service confirmed that Iran is using the gang criminals this way, that adds, some kind of context that is very important and that we need to take very seriously, obviously. And when I spoke yesterday after this news broke out with sources in the criminal environment, I was told that they were not surprised by these new information because when it comes to one of the persons, he's been in Iran for a while in custody. Mm-hmm. And as a source told me that if he's out now, living freely in Iran, mm-hmm. He needs some kind of cooperation with the state. Mm-hmm. That's the allegations, obviously. But we need more proof to understand what they're doing and how they might know that they're working with the intelligence service in Iran.
Yeah, basically what is being said here is that these criminal gangs in Tehran. In your reporting, have you ever seen anything like this?
I haven't seen anything like this when it comes to the gang environment, but we see that our leaders in the gangs, they are living in countries that are not extraditing the criminals to Sweden. And I know from my sources that some of the gang leaders, they have a lot of money. They have good connections in the state, in the intelligence services, mm-hmm. Because that's important for them to get intel about their rivals, but also to be able to live quite safely, openly in their new countries. So, mm-hmm. That was something that at least people in the gang community were expecting mm-hmm. When these guys were staying in these countries.
I'm wondering, how did gang violence, how did it get so bad in Sweden? Sweden's not the first country you think of when you talk about gang violence.
Yeah, that's a good question. We have, I think everybody knows that by now, we have a bad integration. Mm-hmm. We have isolated islands.
Of immigrants, you mean?
Of immigrants. Mm-hmm. We have isolated islands, you could say, around our major cities where it's easier to find an apartment, rental apartment, and that's where a lot of migrants end up. We have segregated schools, and in the same areas we've had the lack of presence from the authorities, from the police, from the social service, and all that. And that has been happening for decades. And that's in the same areas where we've seen this escalation of violence with the shootings. I mean, you cannot just blame the migration to this problem. There are so many layers, to be honest. We need to discuss the layers. Yeah. Because if you just compare to Germany, where they also have taken a lot of refugees, migrants, but they don't have this extreme violence with child soldiers that are committing shootings and detonating bombs. That is something that has been able to happen in Sweden for many reasons. And I would say that part of the reason is that the authorities have failed, as I said, with the integration, but also solving these kind of crimes, not preparing to deal with these problems early enough. And now we are in this situation and trying to figure out what to do.
Journalist Diamant Salihu, we appreciate you taking the time to talk with us. It's a fascinating, disturbing story, the notion of Iranian terror attacks with a Swedish connection. Diamant, thank you.